Anyone who has a family knows there's a dark side to Christmas.
This creature is a force more powerful than evil.
There is a devil in this world, and I have met him.
He is coming.
Nosferatu.
Vampire mythology is so pervasive and enduring. What do you think it is about these stories that continue to fascinate us mere mortals?
I mean, it's just a perfect combination of sex and death, you know, whether it's something like this that is like, a gothic romance is also like a very, like, actually scary horror movie with jump scares, you know, or even Twilight is still like what even in its sort of twee fashion, it is still like sex and death that we are drawn to.
Come to me.
I know that you pull from a lot of historical vampirism as opposed to maybe what we're used to seeing in Hollywood. Can you talk a little bit about the differences there?
The Bram Stoker novel comes from like a literary tradition of people who didn't believe in vampires, and that got expanded upon in cinema. And certain things that we like know, like vampires turn into bats, was never in the folklore. And I wanted to go back to when people actually believed in vampires and thought they were real. What were those vampires like? And they were walking putrid corpses. So not a suave, pale, handsome guy in a dinner jacket. So I had to ask myself, what does a dead Transylvanian nobleman actually look like? And that is how we came up with the concept of the vampire in this film, which I think is a much more formidable and frightening vampire than we've seen on screen in quite some time.
Does evil come from within us? Or from beyond?
Why is Nosferatu a holiday movie? I have to ask that as Regal.
Well, it takes place during Christmas, as you'll see when you come to see the movie.
I was especially struck by the use of shadows in the film. Could you talk a little bit about pulling the audience into that darkness alongside the characters?
You know, one of the great things about what the Murnau did with the shadow work is that we all, vampires are often hypnotizing their victims, and the shadow becomes like a visual way to show that. The film, is an accumulation of details. The atmosphere is an accumulation of details, and these details make the period world like believable and real, and they draw you into the world, as an audience member.
Do you have any advice for young filmmakers looking to explore darker or occult themes in their work?
This applies to anything that you're interested in, but, read every book, watch every film, study paintings, music, learn everything you can, the hungrier you are, and the more you're trying to feed that appetite, like a vampire, the more that you have the tools to express what's in your imagination.
Standing before me, all in black, was death.
Vampire mythology has long fascinated humans. What do you think it is about these stories that we are so drawn to?
The undead visiting the living, that's the start of it.
There's this huge denial of death
Yes.
for humanity, but we're all at the same time just trying to live and die as best as we can. So this is a way of exploring it through a mythology, I suppose, that's based in some historical fact in some regards. These fairy tales and terrifying stories did exist and get developed by people many years ago. So there's like an element where we can explore human nature through them from afar, but also whilst being immersed in it, I think.
And I think one thing that's interesting about Robert, he always roots these things with incredible research. And in this case, he really went back to folkloric stuff that in a time where people actually believed there were vampires. And that was a huge place to start for this version of Nosferatu.
I have seen things in this world that would have made Isaac Newton crawl back into his mother's womb.
Was there anything that you learned historically that really surprised you or that you didn't know prior to this?
Oh, many things, because it's hard to, there's been so many various kinds of movies about vampirism and movies based on the Bram Stoker novel of Dracula that it's hard to separate, unless you go into this research, what are created cinema tropes and what are based on real folklore. And I suppose a little thing that he cites is, for example, the thing of biting in the neck is a total Hollywood invention, because really when people believed, they bit in the chest, which he kind of embraced because it's more poetic, because it's near the heart, you know, and it's also, I think you can't resist if it's something different and it's rooted in history.
Why is Nosferatu a holiday movie, and why should people see it in the theater?
Because anyone who has a family knows there's a dark side to Christmas, and you should celebrate that too.
When you need to escape from everything else. I think, I mean, for me, it's like there's a lot of, on Christmas you want a great movie. That's my thing. It's like you want to watch something that completely transports you and you can all have different visceral reactions to and talk about afterwards. So I think that's what's special about this movie. It's stunning visually, and the sound and everything is all encompassing, but it's you know, wonderful filmmaking on every level. But
there's also that tradition, English tradition of telling ghost stories at Christmas time.
Is
The
that a
biggest example being Christmas Carol, which is
Right,
really
yeah,
a
yeah.
great ghost story. I'm not sure it's a tradition, but
I didn't know if it was, if it could be. It's a new tradition.
say there is.
It is new. If not, it's going to be a tradition from now on.
It's coming.
When you go to the theater, what is your snack order?
I mean, popcorn, I like, if I can, like mix salty and sweet popcorn, which you can't always do as well, and then put some chocolate raisins in there.
Wow, you're hardcore.
Thanks.
Popcorn.
Its desire is to consume all life on Earth.
Vampire mythology has long fascinated humans. What do you think it is about these stories that we are so drawn to?
What did Rob say last night? Sex and death?
Sex and death, yeah. I think that's the best way to
Pretty
sum
much
it up.
it, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like a way to, you know, it's like a vessel that can carry with it like so much of our own primal, you know, fears and fantasies and, you know, all of the things that are very, like, you know, quite mysterious to us in real life.
Is there anything about historical vampires versus Hollywood vampires that you learned throughout the making of this movie that maybe you didn't know before?
Ooh. I feel like there can be nothing further from a Hollywood vampire than Robert Eggers'
Yeah.
vampires.
Well, I feel like we just ended the last interview saying this, but I learned this recently doing an interview with Rob. He was saying that the first kind of tales of vampires were written by people who really believed that they existed.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that, and I thought that was such an interesting tidbit because it, you know, it makes sense then, it makes sense why then these tales would be written through the lens of such like a kind of primal human fear, because I guess they really believed that.
So it wasn't just a story, it was like...
No, it was
they
like
really
it was like a
exist.
real myth of like, you know, perhaps this creature exists. Kind of.
How did you prepare yourselves for the dark themes represented in this movie as you were transforming into the characters?
I feel like a lot of it came from the script and from Rob. Like he is a director who really, really knows what he wants, both visually, from the page, from you as an actor, and it sort of all grew from there.
Why is Nosferatu a holiday movie?
It's our favorite question.
Yeah, we love that one. Because isn't it obvious? It takes place at Christmas time.
It does, and there is a Christmas tree.
And there's a Christmas tree, there's some snow.
There is.
You know, everything you could want.
And I feel like it's the opposite. You want a bit of, you know, take you out of, you've spent the whole day
all
with...
the holly jollies.
Yeah, eating all the Christmas food and the Christmas tree, and you want something to the polar opposite of that.
Yeah, take you to another world.
Yeah.
What was it like working with a modern occult movie icon in Robert Eggers?
I mean, it was amazing.
A dream, yeah. I feel like I feel like I can speak for all of us. We were all fans of Rob before working with him, and most of us, except for Willem and Ralph, had not worked with him before.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was kind of like we were all kind of on the same page, that we were all like, you know, kind of realizing a dream in a way. Like I was super excited to work with Rob. I've always loved his movies, and so to be able to enter his world was a dream.
When you head to the theater, what are you snacking on?
I feel like British snacks probably a bit different, like M&Ms and popcorn.
We have M&Ms.
You have M&Ms, yeah.
I like a little bit of everything. I like popcorn, Sour Patch.
That's great.
A big like fountain soda, and then perhaps like a little, like maybe like a peanut M&M.
Yeah, a peanut M&M.
Yeah, I like the whole nine.
Whole spread.
Yeah, the whole spread.
Good choices all around. Thank you so much.
It's coming.
He is coming.
He is coming to us.
He's coming.
Who is coming to you, my child?